Unbelievable. You know, I'm very naive. I'm very, very naive. My wife likes to make chicken. And I notice that chicken after chicken, they all have the same bone in a certain. And I wonder how come every chicken has the same bone? Isn't that silly? But it's just the wonder of Hashem's creation. You know, why when you put an acorn into the earth and it gets water enough and it decays, and you get an oak tree, why don't you get a birch tree or an elm tree? Why don't you get strawberries? It's amazing, because that's what it says. That's how Hashem makes the world, that everything should reproduce according to its kind. We take it for granted. It says in the earliest stages of creation that it was not orderly at all. A person would plant wheat and barley would come up. You would plant vegetables and thorns and thistles would come up. It's only in the time of Noach that things began to, after the flood, things became more orderly. Hashem made a promise that he was going to do that. Okay, now, so we're talking about the wisdom, the Chachma. Chachma is the highest intellectual power. The Chachma generates the creative drop that generates the child, and it continues to activate, to give energy and life to the child, even after the child is born. There's no separation. I mean, there is a physical separation. The child is born. Until then, the child was part of the mother's living body, getting its nurture from the body, from the mother's body. It writes about it in the Talmud, that the child is upside down, its eyes are closed, its mouth is closed, doesn't see or hear anything. And then it's born and everything is reversed. But even so, it still continues to get its life and inspiration from the Chachma, from that level of energy that generated its life in the first place from the mind of the Father. Now we can say, but the mind of the Father comes from the mind of his Father and the mind of his Father and so on. So that connects the child with a whole history. It could be thousands of years. And there are talents that children have. You don't know where they came from. But maybe they came from a great-grandfather. Or I remember reading a story about two children, twins, that were separated from each other in the early years of the settling of the land of Israel. There was a lot of prejudice against Sephardic Jews, especially dark-skinned Sephardic Jews. And these Taimani boys, dark-skinned boys, were separated. And one of them was actually sold to a family that didn't have children. And you're not allowed to do that. That's capital crime. It's like murder. But they did it. And they told the family, they sold it to, that they don't have to worry about it. They slandered the Orthodox Jews from Yemen and said, we found this child in the garbage pail. Which wasn't true, it was a lie. Anyway, the two children grew up separately. One child grew up in an observant environment. The other child grew up in a completely anti-religious environment. And the whole story of that they fed this family about how they found the child just increased their resentment and hatred of the Orthodox people. What kind of people would throw their child in a garbage pail? Anyway, it turned out that this family had a talent that reached back for 10 generations. A unique talent of being able to blow the shofar in a most remarkable way. And so it turned out that because of that, the child brought up in a non-religious home ended up trying his hand at blowing the shofar, and people were amazed at how well he could do it. And this led to a whole series of things that resolved all the complications of the story. But the point of the story is that you can find talent cropping up after generations, transmitted from parent, one family to the next, to the next, to the next. Now, so that connects the child with the past. And we all have inherited tendencies that we inherit from our ancestors, even from our forefathers and the mothers of the Jewish people. Like we learned in chapter 1, right, that the Jewish people naturally have these 3 identifying qualities of kindness and mercifulness and modesty. That's amazing. And that's part of their animal soul. That's not the godly. The godly soul is much more than that. That's the animal soul of a Jewish person. Just like a bird, a nightingale knows how to sing and when to sing. How does it know? How does a tern, an Arctic tern, that's a bird. It's not like a right turn or a left turn. It's a bird called a tern, T-E-R-N. And they migrate from Alaska to Peru, I believe. It's a long way. And the grown-up birds leave without them. They have to find their own way there because they're not strong enough to make the whole journey like the adults. But they're going to come back the adult way. And they breed in the north during the summertime. And they leave their children, and then the children sort of go in short stops across the country and then cross the Gulf of Mexico and go down the west coast of South America. So they come to Peru where they spend the winter. How do they know? Who taught them? How do they know how to navigate without what's it called? GPS. There are other more amazing things like that. The cuckoo, in English you have a word, cuckold. You know what a cuckold is?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a bird.
No, that's a cuckoo.
Oh.
A cuckoo bird. It's a cuckoo.
Yeah,
exactly. Cuckoo. Not very inventive in terms of its song. It lays its egg or eggs in other birds' nests and leaves the mother bird to take care of its young. So this became a term for a person whose wife was not faithful to him. In the English language, he was cuckolded.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, no.
No.
It's terrible.
I heard that term.
Yeah. That somebody laid their egg in his nest. So we see what makes the bird do that? Hashem doesn't want it. Hashem condemns mixing and the animals that mated outside of their kind were not allowed into the ark. Only animals that were loyal, faithful animals were allowed into the ark. The ark would not accept them.
But I thought animals.
How did the ark know?
Did Noah know? No.
What?
Did Noah know? Noah knew?
Noah, how did Noah know? He learned, Rashi says there that Noah was commanded to take 7 kosher animals and 2 by 2 non-kosher animals. How did he know what they were? And Rashi shows us that Noah learned Torah. Where did he learn Torah from? From his ancestors. 10 generations from Adam until Noah. They knew Torah. But they weren't commanded to. They were commanded 7 commandments. At Mount Sinai, we were commanded those 7 plus. Specifically Shabbos and holidays, which are only for the Jewish people. Whereas these laws of civilization are for the whole of mankind, and it's a holy obligation. Okay, now let's get back on topic. So this knowledge is passed down from generation to generation. Now, what about in each generation? So we have a picture of the history of the Jewish people, the heads of the people, the ultimate brains behind everything. These are our fathers and our mothers, giants. Abraham discovered God. That's quite a discovery. He figured it out by himself. I'm sure you've heard the story. Children are usually told the story with the most minimum amount of Jewish education. They tell the story of how Abraham was trying to figure out what is the source of life. Where is life coming from? Well, everybody likes the sun. The sun makes things grow, makes things warm. Maybe the sun is the source of life. But then he saw that the sun went down, the moon came up. So it seemed like the moon was stronger. But then he saw that the moon changed, got smaller, got bigger. The source of life can't get smaller and bigger. And so on. He was thinking about everything, what are its qualities and what are its strengths, and finally decided there is no one thing that he can attribute life to be the source of life. And so he realized, well, it must be that the source of life is not a visible thing. It's not a thing. It's a higher force. That's Hashem. Now that thought is so obvious to us because we were taught when we were children. So it seems normal, right? It's not normal. In fact, most people struggle with this in their adult years. How am I supposed to believe in a God that I cannot see or hear or touch? I'm supposed to believe in that? Yes, you are. And we are the bearers of the torch. That's why people don't resent us. Because they would rather believe in a God that sanctions their selfish behavior and not a God who imposes morality upon them. Just look at the United Nations today. Rebbe called it the house of darkness, house of lies. People make a pogrom in Israel, killing and murdering and butchering in the most brutal, inhuman way, and are dedicated to continue doing the same thing. That's their goal. That's their whole ethos. And the Jewish people fight against them, and they're called genocidal. The world accuses the Jewish people of doing genocide. Okay, now in each generation, not only do we have the source of life, as Avram discovered it, and this is the source of life of all of the children who will be born from him forever and ever. What about in each generation? So then the Alter Rebbe told us, yes, we have the same thing in every generation. Every generation we have also the leaders of the generation are like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rachel, Leah, of the whole history. We have it also in a smaller version in each generation. So the leaders of the generation, who are they? They are the ones who will be possessed to the most degree of this quality of wisdom, the tippy top of the intellectual lightning rod. You got it? You follow me? So they are the sages whose teachings we have recorded in the Talmud, in the Mishnah, in the Midrashim, codified in the book of Jewish law, that tells us so many things about everything we need to know in our day-to-day life, down to the last detail. And if we don't know what the last detail is, then we go to the sages in our community, to the rabbis who have studied and learned and devote their lives to acquiring this wisdom in their generation. So it comes out that we are connected in our life to our parents. We are connected in our life to our own source of life, which is in our brain, which is connected to the brains of our parents, which is connected to the brains of the leaders of the generation, which is connected to the brains of the general body of the Jewish people as a whole. Now that's an amazing idea. That's really tremendously profound. And this is the source of life, like he says here on page 59 at the top, that where he says the white of the father's semen leads to the formation of the veins, the bones, and the nails of the child. And similarly, Adam Arishan, his garments were made out of the same substance as our fingernails. And they come from Chokhmah, which is the quality of awareness, the highest awareness in the human brain. Exactly so is the case with regard to every Jewish soul in the community of Israel, and he lists here 3 levels of the soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Nefesh is the lowest level of the soul, where the soul actually connects with your body and gives life to your body and gives life to your animal soul. And your Ruach, which means the spirit, the Ruach is spirit. The word Ruach also means a wind. And that's the source of your feelings. The level of the soul that has feelings is the Ruach. And then the Neshama, which is the spiritual depths of the soul that connects with God. Let a person know that he has a Neshama. He knows, he'll understand that that there's a God in the world that is giving him his life. All right, now I'm going to turn the page. Picking up on page 60 at the bottom. As the soul comes down through the worlds of creation, it starts with the wisdom of God, and it comes down level after level after level. In each level, what's taking place? There's a hiding of godliness. Because if God doesn't hide himself, there's no place where the world can go. Where are you going to put the world? Where are you going to put the creation? In the drawer with your socks? Where's it going to go? Hashem has to create so to say, speak, a place where he is not there. Yes. So that's it's like a paradox. How can Hashem, who creates everything, create a place where he is not apparent? That's called hiding. Primal hiding. So the word olam, which means world, right? Like the cheese, ha'olam cheese. It's the world. The word olam has a root. The Hebrew word of the word olam is helem, which means a hiding. So in the beginning, it says God created the world, the heavens and the earth. No, not exactly. In the beginning, God created a hiding, a place where he was hidden. And into this hiding, so what do you mean he was hidden? It means if he is compared to light, so there's a place where there was no light. So the first level of creation is darkness. So darkness comes before light. And that's why, this is reflected in an amazing piece of Talmud that one person asks one of the sages 2,000 years ago, how come I have sheep? How come the black sheep always lead the herd? Have a herd of sheep? I don't know what they're called. What are they called? A herd? Herd of cows. Flock. A flock of sheep. How come the black sheep always lead the flock? And he answered him, he says, because that's how God created the world. First he created darkness, and then into the darkness he shone his light. Unbelievable. Such a profound principle comes out in the order that sheep go from place to place. It was darkness and it was light. When we say our daily prayers, we say, oh, good morning, Mrs. Simcha. How are you today? I'm glad to see that you're with us. And not, heaven forbid, against us. All right. So what do we say in our daily prayers in the morning? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam yotzer or he creates light, yotzer or he forms light, uvoirei choshech, but he creates darkness. And when we say this, it was where tefillin, we touch tefillin when we say he forms light, but he creates darkness, and we touch the tefillin on the head. Because the darkness is higher than the light. Without the darkness, where's the light going to shine? The first thing that Hashem has to create is the darkness. The hiddenness. He has to hide his light. And what do we say in the evening prayer? When the day is on the wane, the day is going. So we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who by your word creates, brings on the darkness, the evening. With wisdom, you open the gates, and with understanding, you change the times from Eastern time, daylight savings time, Eastern time, daylight savings time, and you exchange the times, and you order the movements of the stars in their orbits, in the heavens, according to your will. Boire yem, you create day and night. Goylel or mifnei choshech, you roll aside the light before the darkness. And the darkness you roll aside before the light. Okay. So we have the nefesh, ruach, and neshama of every person, from the highest level of understanding to the most simple being who never got any education whatsoever. But they all come down level by level by level into this world, and each level brings with it a deeper degree of hiding until we get to the ultimate lowest level where godliness is most hidden. Why does God want to do that? Why does he want to hide so much? And the answer is because the more he's revealed, the less room is there for any of us to make a free choice between right and wrong. He has to create a situation in which you could make the wrong decision in order that there should be any merit in making a decision at all. So on the first level of creation, this is called the world of creation. Remember, last week we learned about the world of emanation. The world is unified with Hashem. Let's say that this is like the potential for a world as it's still in Hashem. You know, it's like the potential for a child in the brain of the father before he got married or after he got married. He didn't have a family yet. Where are all those children? Then he goes on to have 14 children. Where were all those children? Where were they? Were they hanging around in his brain? Little Menshalach? So the first level is like similar to that. The potential for the world to exist had to be a potential in the awareness and the intellect of Hashem. But it's still not a world. Well, we call it a world. It's a world that is unified with God, as the world is still connected and one with God. But then we have to go a complete separation to get to the next level, which we can say, no, now we have a world of creation. We're going to call that world number 2, the world of creation. It's called in Hebrew, Bria. Bria means creation. In this world, let's say, just for the sake of analogy, okay, don't take me literally. It's just a metaphor. Let's say that in this world, the light of God is like 25% hidden. So it's still 75% of God's light shining. It's pretty bright. So the only creatures that could exist on this level are very high ranks of angels because they perceive godliness, 75%. They are holy dudes, very holy, very, very holy. And that is the abode of the souls of the greatest sages or highest ranks of what we call angels, spiritual intelligences. And now we've got to go down, but still, there's no room for free choice. So we got to go down again, complete another quantum leap to a lower level. There's no relationship between these two levels. Something on level number 3 cannot possibly deal with level number 2. It would just be overwhelmed. You know, say help. So this level number 2 is called the world of formation, world of forms. What am I talking about? This is a table, right? You know what the form of a table? There's an idea. What makes a table? It's an idea. It's a form. It's the form of a table. Because there is such a thing as a concept of a table, a piece of wood with 4 posts makes a table. Because we have this concept, we can come down another level and actually make a table. But the table has a spiritual source, which is the idea of the table. So we have world number one, the world of creation, then world number two, the world of forms. Well, that's a much lower level. There's no forms in the world of creation. But the next level down is the world of forms. And out of that level, on the next level down, where the light is almost 80, 90% hidden, there we can actually have a table and say, there's no God. There's a table. It's not God, it's a table. God is totally hidden. You see trees, you don't see God. So these are called four worlds, and they correspond to the four letters of the name of God. The Yud of Hashem's name is like the world that's connected to God, still within godliness, before creation. And the K is now, we develop this Yud, we give it, look at it, look. We take the Yud and we develop it. We give it a shape. So this becomes the world, we call this world of, where creation becomes a reality. But we don't see the creation yet. And then we have to bring it down to the next level, which is the Vav of Hashem's name. That comes down into world number 3. And then from that world, which is the world of forms, we come up with the next replication of the idea on a lower level still, which is physical world, where God is very, very hidden. And on this level, we can make a choice. So on this level, no one's holding a gun to our head. We have totally free will to choose between doing good and doing not good. So we see that the whole creation follows these four letters of the name of God. And out of this comes 4 levels of worlds. The highest level of the world is like our high spiritual level. The second level is very high, but not unified with God. The third level is the level on which we have feelings. The world of forms is like in our character, the realm of feelings. So we go from mind to heart to action. This is the world of action, where we can do things. Okay, and all this, as the soul goes lower and lower and lower through all these levels, and this applies to absolutely everybody, right? We are still, page 61, close to the bottom now, not quite, bound and united with a wonderful and mighty unity with the original essence, which is an extension of the supernal wisdom of Hashem. Can you put that together? That it's all coming from the original lightning flash in the intellect of God. And Hashem is not the flash or intellect, he's higher than that too. That's just where he starts. That's the start of creation. Inspires creation and continues to inspire creation even after the child is born, which connects us to the source of our life. And where do we find that level of inspiration? We find it in us. It's called our inspirational capacity, called wisdom in our brain. And in each generation, we'll find that in the sages of the generation, because they study and they learn, and they have very finely tuned neshamas, very sensitive. So this quality of holy wisdom is very much by them. And so we find that the sages actually inspire the life of every single person in the generation. They're the transmitters. They get it from their predecessors, and they pass it on to all of us in their generation. So the sages and the wise leaders of the generation are really the source of life of the actual generation in that generation. And they get their life from the leaders of the previous generation all the way back. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you too.
They didn't teach us this in health class in grade 8.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you, Bezos Hashem, tomorrow.
Yeah. See you. Bye. Do you want this? No. Are you sure? So why are you complaining? So take the jacket. So Eastern European. Oh, I just have a scarf.
Why doesn't it have sleeves?
It helps. I'm telling you, it's really warm.
Oh, why doesn't it
So-
have sleeves?
Because it's really. You want my scarf? Scarf?
No, thank you.